It's up for grabs now!
Magic ball from Bergkamp to Patrick Vieira!
Oh, would you believe it? Oh, right, what a way to get it!
Fabulous solo goal by Thierry Henry.
Champions.
Good afternoon, and lovely summer's afternoon as well. I hope you're all enjoying the weather out there. I'm in here doing this for you guys. So we thought we'd do this a nice quick show to maybe educate some of our fans, and we've all been a bit underwhelmed with the transfer window. So what we did is we contacted this gentleman. We've been an admirer of his for a while. He's written and interviewed over 375 footballers, pro footballers, and managers over his time. He's also appeared on TalkSport and TalkSport 2. I know some of us aren't the best fans of TalkSport as Arsenal fans, but welcome to the Arsenal Lounge, James Rowe. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you, Lev. Thank you for the invitation. A long time coming. I'm really looking forward to it.
Good. So, James, I mean, obviously, I've heard from various sources that you're a bit of a guru with footballers, you know, in all leagues. I mean, I saw a tweet from one person who said, "Who's this Tomiyasu guy?" And someone actually said, "Look, if you want information on a footballer, speak to James Rowe." So we've just thought to ourselves, well, this is what we're going to do. We're underwhelmed with a transfer window. Who are these guys that we've signed? And will they add to our squad? Are they hit or a miss? So I thought what we'll do, James, if it's okay with you, is start from the back. So we'll start with, you know, Ramsdale. We'll work our way through Tavares, Ben White, Tomiyasu, and then we'll look at the midfield as well. So obviously, afternoon to all you loungers, by the way. So obviously, we're all expecting big things this window. We always promised every year as Arsenal fans, be excited. We're always expecting big names. We're always linked with big names, some of them over and over again every summer. So, you know, some of these names have not struck a chord with the fans. So I wanted to ask you your personal opinion. So starting with Ramsdale, a lot's been made of the Ramsdale signing. It was quite expensive, 24 million. Some are calling it a backup goalie, 24 million. Should we have been, you know, paying that much? But I don't think Arsenal are paying 24 million for a backup goalie. I mean, this is a young lad who started off, I think it was Sheffield United, went to Bournemouth, then Sheffield United again. He's been voted Player of the Year by the fans on numerous occasions for both clubs. What's your thoughts on the Ramsdale signing? Ramsdale in particular, and do you think he adds something to our team that we don't already have?
Well, I think he might end up having in the long term a bigger presence than Leno in terms of a goal mouth, in terms of the goal area. It reminds me very much of my interview with Bob Wilson from a couple of years ago, when he was saying that when you're in goal, you're in this huge chasm where, as a footballer, you've got to have presence as a goalkeeper. And I know people talk about the price tag, but you also have to remember he's very young, and obviously buying English players. I do definitely think he's been brought with an eye to being number one in the future. Obviously, as you rightly say, being made Player of the Year at Bournemouth and also Sheffield United. Sorry, my apologies. Sheffield United.
That's all right. And,
He's definitely one for the future, I reckon. But it's very much a sign of the times. You know how lots of fans like to kind of want to be in the know and want to be always on the cases regarding transfers. But one thing I want to make clear today is to get a different thought process going to people maybe listening to me for the first time, is that there's not a pot of gold at the end of every transfer. Some young players, and particularly the foreign players that we've signed in this window, some young players are going abroad for the first time in their lives, and they're learning life skills. They're learning how to cook, they're learning how to clean, they're learning how to look after themselves. And these are things that you don't often hear about when talking about a transfer, because it's not just footballers, they're also human beings. And I think a lot of Arsenal fans in this particular window, they may well have been overwhelmed, but it's about the human side of it as well. These are players that have dedicated their lives to become professional. And it's simply not a case of luck. You know, you can't plan a career. Take Luke de Jong, for example, just to go off. He started out at FC Twente, was marginalised at Newcastle, was told that he was useless at Newcastle, recently ends up signing for Barcelona. So you can't plan a football career. And I'm sure in the case of Aaron Ramsdale as well, that I'm sure when he was in goal for Bournemouth and Sheffield United, but the first thing that he thought about, or the last thing that he thought about, is that he would end up in his short term being goalkeeper of Arsenal.
I mean, look, welcome as well to Eduardo. I know he's been studying. He's basically an aspiring journo himself. He's a regular lounger here. He's one of us. So welcome on board, bro. I know you've been busy, looking well as usual.
Thank you for everything. Nice to meet you, James. I've followed you for a while, and I love your work. And Lev, I hope you're being great.
Hello well, I knew you'd appreciate this show, Edu. We do look after you, mate. We always do.
Thank you.
But basically, just so you know, what we're doing is running through some of the signings because everyone's been underwhelmed by these signings, and James has got an extensive knowledge of these players. So we thought we'd run through. So we started off with Ramsdale. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong as well, James and Edu, if you want to come in at any time. I think we've gone for Ramsdale as well because of his comfort on the ball at his feet. His use of the ball, his delivery with his hands as well. He's very quick getting those balls out to his players. His stats are very impressive in that sort of area. Is that something that was an influence, James? And Edu, please come in as well. Is that something that you think that was a major influence in this sort of decision to go for Ramsdale?
Possibly, but I also think there's a different kind of thinking behind it. I was very fortunate to interview recently Frans Hoek, who's the current national goalkeeping coach of the Netherlands. And we're speaking about his career working with Van Gaal at Barcelona, at Ajax, at the national team, and also recently again. And he was saying that in his case, with all his experience as a goalkeeper, you're not just looking at the individual, you're also looking at the style and the way the team plays. And he gave the example of Atletico Madrid with Jan Oblak, and also Manchester City with Ederson, where the style of how the team wants to play. And I do very much think that Ramsdale is definitely one for the future. And also, thank you for the kind words, Eduardo. Likewise from my end, and keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Oh, you too, eh? Get a room, eh? You too. Well, look, we'll move on then. So for me, Ramsdale, although he's quite expensive, I don't see him as being bought as a backup goalie. I see him being bought as a successor to Leno. There's already rumours that Leno's on his way out. Edu, have you heard anything with regards to that? Because that's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing he's out next season. He's gone.
Well, for me, Ramsdale, people say it's a long-term signing. I think it's very short-term because Leno's not going to leave in 2 to 3 years. He's leaving probably next season. So Ramsdale's going to have his time to be in the bench to learn the Arsenal ways, and then he's going to have to implement himself there, and he's going to have to take the responsibilities as number one. So I think for me, the only time I saw him against West Brom, I was very impressed in many ways. His distribution, he commanded the box very well. He comes out to claim the crosses, which is something I think Leno has been at fault at so many times lately, against Manchester City twice, against when Sterling scored, when Gundogan scored, and we suffered for that a lot. So I hope to see Ramsdale play a bit more. I mean, I suppose if you're buying him and making him the 6th most expensive goalkeeper in history, I mean, I think you should have high expectations and you should play him. I mean, for me, players learn by playing, by having minutes. So I think the most sensible thing is to start putting Ramsdale there because he's the future. Leno probably was the past and probably the short-term present. So I think in terms of investment, you have to play him because he could become something great and prove everybody wrong. Because before he came, a lot of people were giving him stick, and I think it's because of the price tag. I don't think it's because of the player himself. So I suppose he's going to be having a lot of responsibility going forward.
I mean, I'm looking at some of the comments here, and some people were putting in here, Ramsdale's been relegated a couple of times, and he's error prone, and he's a pub goalie. I think it's ridiculous
for me, those narratives don't run because I mean, you can't fault a relegation. You can't fault a relegation in only one player, man. I mean, what is Ramsdale supposed to do? Go out there and be the striker as well to score the goals? It's impossible. So
yeah, I mean, and to be honest with you, fans know football. Let's be honest, right? When we're at the grounds. These fans, Maximus, I'll throw this at you as well, mate. Yeah, these guys were going to his games week in, week out, right? Bournemouth fans and Sheffield United fans. And both sets of fans made him player of the year, fans player of the year, and also young player of the year, right? So they're seeing something, and these guys are seeing him week in, week out. So I would hold back that thought and calling him trash just because he was its size that got relegated. That's ridiculous. But anyway, we'll keep this moving on because I know that James has got commitments, and we're, and Eduardo is studying to be a journo himself. So we're going to move on to Tavares. Now, Ramsdale, is 23, I think. Tavares is 21. Right, and I'm starting to see a trend when I start to look at our signings, because he's 21 years of age. He broke into, I think it was the Anderlecht team at a pretty young age as well, James. Right, I think he was 17 or 18 when he broke into Anderlecht's side, and he's progressed very quickly through the
Lokonga,
ranks. No, Tavares.
No.
Benfica.
Yeah, Benfica. That's it. Benfica. There you
Tavares
go.
was
I'm getting them
Benfica.
mixed up. Yeah, you're right. I'm getting them
Tavares was
mixed up.
Benfica, yes. Lokonga
Yeah,
was
that's what I
Anderlecht.
meant to say. I've got my notes here. That's what I meant to say. So he was at Benfica, broke into the team very young. I think Benfica B, then Benfica A. Yeah, he was at Benfica A side quite consistently in his final season. 21. He's commanding. He's tall. He's doing well for himself as a player at the moment. Why do you think we've gone for him? I saw him play against us for Benfica, against Arsenal, right? So I was impressed with him. What do you think we saw in him? Is he purely a backup, or do they see more in Tavares going forward?
I think in the short term, I think he's a backup, but I think his pace from that position will help. The small details in that position, at the highest level, the most important thing is the fine-tuned details. So to give you an example, I interviewed Fabian Johnson, who played under Lucien Favre at Mönchengladbach, and he told me an anecdote one day about they were training, and he was playing in the same position, of course, and he was receiving instructions from Lucien Favre from the sidelines, and he was being told, use your left foot, use your left foot, use your left foot. And he thought, what does it matter? But he realised in such a small space in the pitch, to relieve the pressure as a collective with an attacking block coming at you, it's important to use both feet and use the space as well. I think Tavares' pace is an asset that we can use going forward, and also the experience of playing for such a massive club. Benfica are a giant of a football club, and to come through that youth setup, you need a lot of determination, you need a lot of application and dedication as well. And I think that's something which will stand him in good stead. But he's also very young. And as I reiterated a couple of minutes ago, it really is so important for young players that fans realise as well. Is it's not a ready meal. You don't take it out of the package and put it in the microwave. In the case of many foreign players, they are going abroad for the first time in their lives. They're away from home, they're away from family, they're away from friends. They're learning to cook and clean. The club becomes your family, so therefore the club's also got to look after them. And, it's about acclimatizing to a new language, to a new culture. Some learn quicker than others, of course, but it's also important factors to remember, especially when a young player arrives from a foreign club to sign for your club in this respect.
Yeah, no, absolutely right. I mean, and everyone, the feedback I've been reading about, I've been looking into Tavares, is he's quick, he's skillful, he's good at attacking. There's a question mark defensively with him at times, but then again, he's a young lad. You're going to expect that. Edu, do you know much about Tavares yourself?
Well, I know a little bit about him, and I think we should be very excited. I think his physical qualities are very, very important. I mean, that can't be undervalued. I mean, he probably is one of the best athletes at the club right now. So I think every young player needs polishing. And in this case, Tavares evidently needs some polishing in his passing, in his distribution, in the way he runs, the way he dribbles, the way he receives. But going forward, I think it's a very good signing. I mean, Tierney, as much as we like him, he is injury prone sometimes, and we are going to need somebody to fill that void. And Kolasinac didn't provide a appropriate cover at times. So I think it was needed to buy some not only competition, but like a backup to Tierney, because he's not going to play the whole season. Let's be honest. So I think going forward, I think it's a very good signing and good value as well, very cheap, and it has a lot of potential. I think this is one of the ones that I like the most because, I mean, you buy little gems and then you can make them great players. And, I mean, it was a position of need, in my opinion, because Kolasinac, as I repeat, I didn't think he was good enough to even be backup. So I think it was needed and appropriate scouting right there. I mean, we weren't bad going for Ryan Bertrand, who's 33, 32, and it's going to be a short-term signing. So I think this one was a good movement.
I agree. I like this signing. I really do. I mean, I'm trying to be positive and I'm trying to look beyond the names and all of that. And this is what this whole point of this show was, to see if we can maybe find some sense in what's going on here with Edu's interview and all that stuff. You know, it's created a lot of sort of confusion as to what direction we're going in. So, you know, that's another guy. He's still young. He's what, 21? So we got a 23-year-old, a 21-year-old. Now then we look at Ben White as well. And, you know, again, 23 years old. Now I was quite surprised with the Ben White thing because he's done it the old-fashioned way, hasn't he, James? Because he's been at every league in the football leagues, and he's been through all four. He's been to Newport County. He's been at at Leeds. He's been at Peterborough, but at Leeds he was ever present in their promotion season, and the Leeds fans speak very, very highly of him. So, you know, if we start looking beyond the big names and saying, look, this is a guy that's been at every league. And Championship is meant to be one of the toughest, if not the toughest out of the four, physically and all of that. So he's held his own there. What do you know about Ben White? He's 6 foot. Some are saying he's shorter, but he's 6 foot tall, apparently. Is he the right type of player for us? Should we have been looking for a Lewis Dunk? What is the thought process behind Ben White?
Well, I think personally, his season under Bielsa at Leeds United, I think, would have helped him no end to be shooed by such a world-class manager. And I think it just goes to show the sign of the times in football, where when he was a Championship player after his loan spell with Leeds were quoted at 25 million, only to balk at the price and say, no, we would rather spend 25 million strengthening our squad in different areas, which is exactly what they did. A season later, Arsenal played double that. And if you think of the money we spent on Gabriel as well, and you make a great point about obviously the name players, because I really do feel our fan base, especially the younger generation, they appear to judge a player on YouTube, social media presence and price tag, when you've got to start to really judge players on footballing characteristics, really. And obviously everyone's got an opinion. You have to respect the opinion of others. But I just think that our fans who may say that it's been a bit of a letdown, it's a world game from North America, South America to Europe to Africa. There's footballers based all over the world, and apart from the commercialism of football in the last 20 years, the thing that's got better is the coaching of players coming from different countries, including our own country. So I think a lot of our fans also have to kind of be aware that, you know, it's not just about the name of a player. It's about the journey that a player, you mentioned Ben White there at Peterborough, at Leeds United. It all adds to experience. And it's very important to gain experience as well. And obviously a good season under Graham Potter as well. Ben White, that's all experience which would stand him in good stead. I think his height and presence is something we may be missing in the back line. But again, one for the future. But we've got to look forward and start to have a collective and regular starting 11. I mean, I'm based in the Netherlands. I'm originally from the UK, but I live in Amsterdam in the Netherlands. And I can't tell you how many Dutch Arsenal fans come up to me and say to me, when was the last time we had the same starting 11? Even going back to the Wenger era and the time under Unai Emery, where fans even abroad are saying, you know, Arsenal need to have a collective regular starting 11 again. So it's great to collect these players and to kind of arrange things properly, but we've got to kind of mould a team and also a team ethic going forward, because that's also a very important asset.
That's true, James. Very true. And look, I'll just to show you, Maximus is a regular. Hello, bro. How you doing? Leeds fans speak highly of him, in inverted commas, definitely the scouting barometer that should be used. Laugh my ass off. Well, I'll say to Maximus, a couple of years ago, when Kante joined Leicester, did you know who he was? A couple of years ago, did you know who Calvin Phillips was? So, I mean, that's a ridiculous statement, bro. And you know I've got a lot of respect for you. But look, we're trying to, like, look beyond all of this, and I'm trying to look beyond it too, beyond the name. So we don't know. You don't know. It could be a good signing. The proof comes out in time. Eduardo, you've seen what James had to say, and you've seen what some of the guys in the chat are saying. Ben White, you and I both know we were saying it, and we'll be honest, and I'll be honest with Maximus as well. We were saying, is he the type of centre back we need? At the end of the day, I would have preferred a Lewis Dunk type because we were aerially weak. But
It's a great argument, in my opinion. I mean, most fans have something against White because they have some affiliation to William Saliba, and it's all for me. It's acceptable because William Saliba in
Yeah.
himself, he's a wonderful prospect. I think for me, the best prospect probably in the world in terms of center back speaking. So I think the fans are a bit like, we want to see Saliba. So if Arteta and Edu bring a 50 million center back to the club, it's evident there's question marks there, and we all want to see him play. So in terms of you judge the player by himself, I mean, taking out the context, the situation, I think Ben White is a fantastic player. He's a Rolls-Royce center back, in my opinion. I mean, the questions about his heading ability and aerial presence, they are there because they're pretty evident. So, but I think everything you can coach everything. So if he can get some leap, if he can get some more aggressiveness to his aerial presence, I mean, he could be a fantastic center back for us. So I think the price, I mean, it was steep, but I mean, now you have to understand the context that you're paying for English premium because homegrown is going to become a thing going forward with Brexit rules and things like that. So I think, I mean, I don't know what to say. I mean, I love the player. I don't like the price tag, but I hope he proves everybody wrong. I mean, there's a lot of people who like him. I mean, for me, I think there's like 85% of people who like the signing, and the other 15% just have agendas. I mean, for me, this season we have to ride it through with White and Gabriel as starting because, I mean, the rotations that Arteta sometimes does like baffle everybody. So, I mean, I think that's a collective feeling. But, I mean, the signing in general, I quite like it. I mean, Ben White last season, I was very impressed with him. He's in the England squad now. He's only 23. So, I mean, I can't be bothered by that. I mean, I think I quite like it.
I like it, but I would have preferred someone. Look, he looked very good with Duncan next to him. So maybe with Gabriel next to him or someone a bit more aggressive, we'll get the best out of him. A regular of ours, Wayne Sage, how you doing, brother? Thank you for your super chat. You're always there for us. Enough respect, guys. Agree with James. Fans are stuck on players' names. Better transfer window than fans make out. If we sign Max Aarons, fans would be excited. Tomiyasu is the better player. Well, thank you for the segue there, Wayne, because that is my next player that we're looking at. Tomiyasu. Takehiro Tomiyasu. So this lad, again, I've done a little bit of digging around on him. Very similar, 22 years of age again. Somebody that, developed very quickly. Now, this lad, I didn't know that when he was younger, he was recommended to Barcelona Academy, went for trials at the academy, and they wanted him. But he couldn't go because of relocating from Japan would have been too much for a kid so young. So, I mean, this is the Barcelona Academy, guys. Yeah, we're not talking about some shoddy academy here. This lad was sought after at a young age. He went to Japan, started in the J League, very quickly developed, and then he went to Belgium, I believe it was. Is that right, James? I think you know better than I do. I think he went to a team called Sint-Truidens, I think. Is that right?
Sint-Truidens, yeah.
Sint-Truidens.
Oh, the way, yeah, that's the one, James.
Yeah, obviously, I'm not trying to be funny or awkward. It's just obviously living in Amsterdam, Dutch is my first language here. But yeah, it just goes to show how quickly things can change in football. 2 years ago, he's playing for Sint-Truidens. 2 years later, he's playing for Arsenal. It just goes to show that you really cannot plan a career. You can have dreams and ambitions like anyone, but it's very difficult to plan a career. I'm sure he wasn't expecting that as well. Obviously, being capped by his national team. As far as I'm aware, his pace and his attitude is something which is very important. And I think as well, Bologna, I know they've made life difficult for many seasoned Serie A teams, especially at home in recent years. So it'll be interesting with him coming up against good teams in Serie A. You know, that'll be a good grounding because the experience is very important. And as I say,
they were very complimentary about him out there.
And hopefully he'll come with the right attitude as well, because that's also vitally important. A lot of people like to think that, you know, the price tag is decisive, but the most important thing is the attitude of a player, because timing really is everything in football. The timing of a player making a transfer, the timing of a manager arriving. To give you an example as well, Alexander Butner, who you may all know was a left back at Manchester United and won the Premier League. He started out as a midfielder. He was playing for Vitesse here in the Netherlands, and then John van der Brom arrived, put him as left back, and his career, by his own admission, just completely took off. So it can be many things. It can be the signing of a particular player. It could be a change of position as well. So there's many different facets. I know a lot of Arsenal fans, especially in this window, they see many things black and white. But at the top level, it really is the smallest details that make the biggest difference. And it's about working hard as a collective. If you look at the teams that have made made progress in recent years, you look at Leicester, starting at the top with an owner who wants to carry on a fantastic fantastic way that the previous owner put to have good players, a good setup, all the way down to a new training ground. And you take Braga, apart from the big three in Portugal of Benfica, Sporting Lisbon and Porto, it's Braga which have made the most progress in recent years because they've got a president who's hell-bent on success. So fans as well, tonight is an opportunity to hear different attitudes in terms of how different clubs progress, because football is an ever-changing pace of a global game in that respect.
That's a massive point. And, when I start looking into it and you look at the teams you've mentioned prior as well, the Leicesters of this world and the Wolves and all these other teams that have had to be a bit more creative with their signings, a bit more smart with their scouting systems, they've caught up with the likes of Arsenal with the types of players that they've been bringing in just purely by being astute. And the more I look into Tomiyasu, the more excited I am about him, because he's a tall guy, but very quick and agile for a tall guy. He's excellent with both feet. He rarely gets beaten on one-on-ones. They speak very highly of him in Serie A in Bologna. He was touted. I think Atalanta were looking at trying to get him. Tottenham were in for him. He got in on his debut. He got man of the match. So I mean, and he's been up against some really good attacking players in Serie A. I mean, Edu, what do you know about Tomiyasu? Because he's, I think he's a bit of a gem.
I've been learning about him. I mean, if you asked me who was Tomiyasu before the transfer window, I wouldn't have been able to tell you. But now I've been looking at him. I was just watching his game. He was playing for Japan at left center back. I mean, that talks about his versatility as well. So, I mean, everything I've seen, I quite like him. I mean, heading wise, I mean, from what I saw, he won absolutely every header that he played against. So he was playing against Wule, who's a very fast forward, and he beat him but for pace the whole game. So I was very impressed. I mean, I want to see him play right back because that's the position we needed to fill. But I mean, in terms of how he looks in the pitch, I mean, I am very impressed. I think he's very commanding. He's very good with both feet. I mean, out of pressure, he's excellent. So I think this could be a hit. And I mean, this tells me that Arteta has a certain type of right back he wants to use, and it's the inverted right back role, because he could have gone for a much faster, smaller type of right back like Max Aarons, Riddle Baku, but he decided to go for this profile, and you have to see how it works, because I mean, for me, he looks way better than I've seen Chambers, that I've seen Cedric, or even better in his last few days here at Arsenal. So I mean, I hope he plays as soon as he can, because that's a position we were very critical in need of.
Well, he's a definite starter, surely, once he's fit.
Yeah, absolutely.
So he's a definite starter. There's no confusion there. There's no worries or concerns. I think Ben White will be a starter. There's question marks with Ramsdale still, and obviously we know Tavares at the moment is a backup. But in your opinion, you think he's going straight in at right back? Yeah?
Absolutely, he has to. I mean, our right back options right now are horrible. So terrible. I mean. Then it comes the question about Sambi Lokonga arises, if he's going to start or not. I mean, he's going to have 3 games, and he's going to have to start.
This is the one we wanted to save till last, because this is the one that's very contentious for me, because I'll explain. So again, Sambi, that age again, 21, right? Again, the type of lad, this time I'll get it correct, he started at Anderlecht. He broke in. He got his pro forms November 2017. Broke into the first team December 2017. Now they were careful with his development, but eventually, by 2019, he was a regular for them, right? And he was a starter, and he was doing very, very well. He was touted for big things there. I didn't know this as well, but his brother's a footballer, Paul, Jose, and Poku. He was at Spurs. Then I think he went to Standard Liège. He's gone to Serie A a couple of times as a striker. Cagliari, I think it was one of them. So he's a footballer too. So it's in his genes. It's in his family, as a footballer. But James, Lokonga, I've heard some very, very good things. I'm really impressed with his start. He looks really good on the ball. He looks like physically he's made for the Premier League, unlike Xhaka. What do you think the idea behind Lokonga is? And do you think eventually he, is he a starter or is he backup?
I think experience will be key, and I think to assimilate him in a new league, in a new culture, it's something that they will take their time with. Somebody so young, it can be a little bit overwhelming. It can be a little bit overwhelming to go from a league in Belgium, for example, to playing in the Premier League, in terms of training with your teammates, in terms of all the requirements of playing for a big team. So I think they'll be very careful with him, but also Anderlecht are head and shoulders the biggest club in Belgium in terms of their facilities, in terms of the way they look after their players. I know Club Brugge have been very, very good in recent years, but Anderlecht have always been the flagship in that respect. So you'd like to think that his experience will help him. But I think the club will also want to be responsible. They'll also want to be responsible in making sure that he finds his feet and he gains more games. I wouldn't be surprised to see him maybe playing in Carabao Cup games, for example, and maybe coming and starting Premier League games every now and again, and hopefully thinking of his welfare, because that's also something which is very important. We've had players in the past that have started so brightly only to fade away, and it's important to kind of look after young players as well. Give them that sufficient rest as well. Let them be aware of what they've achieved, because that's also something. Sometimes young players can be offered the earth, only very little to be delivered. To give you an example, I spoke to Philip Sandler, who went from Pexwood to Manchester City. And I was one of the first people to speak to him when I went down to Swallow and spoke to him at the stadium. And I said to him, how does a player go from Pexwood to Manchester City? And he said, well, James, they really sold it to me. He said, they told me that I'd be training with the likes of Sergio Aguero and David Silva. He said, I remember my medical took an absolute H. And he even turned down overtures from Ajax, PSV Eindhoven, and also Arsene Alkmaar to sign for Manchester City. And in the subsequent years, he's hardly played. He had a loan spell back at Anderlecht, but he's hardly played. And that's why it's very important with young players in particular, particularly coming from abroad, that they get looked after, that they play, and also that the fans realise that the position that they're in. This isn't FIFA or a Championship Manager where you click a button and you take them out of the team. You're dealing with young men that are finding their feet, not just in football, but also in life. So it's important to be patient with them and let them find their feet and let them blossom at their own pace as well.
See, this is where it's contentious, James, and I'll pass this on to Edu as well. I mean, for us, the midfield center, the central midfield area needed some attention, right? It's let us down season upon season. We're not saying Xhaka is a bad footballer. We're just saying he's not suited to the Premier League. He's suited to a slower type of football, and he would do well in Serie A, or he would do well in La Liga, I'm sure. And he's looked great in the international tournaments for that very reason. However, if we've bought Lokonga as a backup, I think the problem the fans have with this is we haven't addressed that issue, someone to partner Partey. Now, having seen him, I'll come to you, having seen him for the first few games, I already think, and it's hard to say based on what James is saying, and I know logic should come first, but we're used to seeing Xhaka, and we've got a young lad who's mobile, who's graceful, he looks to go forward with the ball. Should he be playing, or is it right that he's back up with what we have at the moment?
I mean, I would go with Arsene Wenger's quote here that, I mean, if you have a young player that you know is going to have a future in the club and he's going to provide you with greatness, I mean, you have to give him the chances. If he commits a mistake, 1 or 2, 3, he's learning in the process. I mean, what can we expect from Xhaka? I mean, Xhaka is not going to give you 2 or 3 more levels than what he already gives you. I mean, we already know what he can give. And with Sambi Lokonga here, I mean, people tend to forget that he was the captain of Anderlecht at 21, which is not something that goes slightly, because as James said, they are the biggest club in Belgium. So I think you have to give him the responsibilities, because he has proven with his short experience that he has what it takes to be the leader. So he's going to have to play. I mean, the next 3 games, they are going to be there. And fans, if Sambi Lokonga has an excellent next 3 games, fans are not going to want to see Xhaka back and Sambi sitting on the bench. So, I mean, Arteta is going to have to make a decision there. And look, if he takes his chance and provides with what we need, he has to stay there. I mean, it's like that. Football, I mean, for me, football's like this. You don't come to a team and are backup because you're backup. I mean, if you're better than the starting one, you deserve to start. And that's the thing. If he proves to be better and he proves to do better than Xhaka has done in the last few games, he keeps his place until he does something wrong or he gets injured, and then Xhaka starts and Xhaka has to win his place back, because at this football club we've been victims of putting players there who don't perform only because they have a name. I've seen that a lot of times because this guy has 27 years old, he's 28 years old, he gets to be a starting player, and for me that doesn't run. Because as we see, look, the 2 brightest players in the world right now, Erling Haaland and Kylian Mbappe, they rose through when they were 17, 18, and now they are world beaters because they had the chance to play and teams believed in them. So that's what we have to do.
That's a good point, Edu. I mean, look, hold on. Anelka, and James, I'll say to you, Anelka, when he burst on the scene, what was he, 17, 18 when he was at Arsenal?
Exactly.
Fabregas, Jack Wilshere, you know.
You see Pedri from Barcelona, he played 70 games this season. He's only 18. He's turning 19 soon. And he's been extremely important to all of his teams. For me, football is not about age. For me, football is about quality.
So, James, are we putting too much emphasis on age, or are you just suggesting it's because it's a lifestyle change as well and coming to a new country and having to settle in? What are the likes of Fabregas that we mentioned? He was at Arsenal from very young. We basically nicked him from Barcelona's academy from a very, very young age. Anelka was in our youth system for a little bit. Vieira came pretty young, but he burst onto the scene quick as well. Are we putting too much emphasis on age, or is it right what you're saying in the sense that we've got to be careful? I mean, some people adapt quicker than others, right? So if he adapts to the situation quicker, does he not deserve to play, having been an Anderlecht captain at the age of 21? Can you hear me, James?
Well, yeah, I thought your question was addressed to Eduardo. That's fine.
No, that's all right. That's all right.
You could be maybe putting too much pressure on age, but again, as well, it's also the mindset. You know, people also have to realise that not every footballer is filthy rich. Not every footballer is busy with a lifestyle off the pitch. Some are more dedicated than others. And I think Arsenal fans in recent years, what they've shown is when there's a glimmer of hope, they latch onto that and they hold on to it when they realise as well that players have to naturally grow. It's simply not a case of turning the tap on and away you go. The team ethic of the game is so important, where as a collective, you've also got to learn to work together, learn to work as a team, how that individual functions within that team. These are all things that players also learn as they go along. So I know Eduardo makes great points about Mbappe and about Haaland, but if you think of Haaland with his experience in Austria as well, and what he's doing at the national team, he's the leader of that national team already at such a tender age for Norway. And in case with Mbappe, the youth academy of Monaco has always been the jewel in their crown. Always. People love to talk about the money involved and the paradise that their training ground is, and La Turbie and all that. But it's always been the youth academy which has been the jewel in Monaco's crown. And of course, Mbappe came through that and burst onto the scene, signing for Paris Saint-Germain as a fan of Paris Saint-Germain. So I think you do have exceptions, but I think Arsenal fans, we've got to be behind our team this year. We've got to realise we've got no European football for more than a quarter of a century. That will help. We've got a decent draw in the League Cup as well. We've got to try to win a trophy, and we've got to stick with them. You know, we've had a period where we had Wenger for such a long time. Unai Emery was given only 18 months, and then he goes to Villarreal and wins the Europa League with a village of 50,000 people and with some excellent footballers. So the turnover and what's gone on behind the scenes hasn't helped the club, and we've got to kind of stick with them this season and see where we end up. We try to our best to give each team a game, try to be aware of the young players we've got, look after them as well, and try to enjoy the season as well. We will have the off season where we we look forward to the football season coming up. And then a lot of Arsenal fans, when it starts, they get all negative and they get all upset. But try to enjoy it as well. I mean, I remember going to Highbury as a young gooner to see us lose to Wimbledon and to see us and not score many goals and to see us, boring Arsenal, for example, and how times change. So times change and the game also changes. But we've got to stick with our club this season through thick and thin and then try to enjoy the ride as well, because the football season goes by in the blink of an eye.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you, James, to some point. But I think what's happened with us fans is we've been starved for a long time. And we've been starved of the type of players that we need. We all, as fans, have seen what we've needed for a long time. We knew we needed a central midfielder that was more of the ilk of a Vieira or someone like that, and we never did it. We've seen that we needed a centre back like an Adams, a leader. We haven't done it. We've seen that Bellerin should have gone and it hadn't been done. We've seen that we needed better players everywhere, and we haven't done it. And I think it's very difficult because all we seem to be asked is to wait. How much more do we have to wait? I'll put it out to the guys in the chat. Thank you for your support. There's guys from Norway sending us love. Reggie's asking me if I'm having a Charlie Nicholas mullet. I don't know. Me and my hair fell out a long time ago. There's a lot of support in it, so thank you very much. I'm conscious of time for James as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this forward very quickly. Guys, we've discussed some of these players. I am a little bit more positive with some of these players, and I'm a little bit... It's not the players that we've signed that's the issue. I just don't think we've put the right level of experienced players that are ready to go right now that we can rely on. I think Xhaka should have gone and we should have got a Basuma. We've said it every bloody show. But based on what we're talking about now, I'll start with Edu. Who do you expect to see starting at Norwich? And what do you think the result's going to be?
I hope to see Ramsdale in goal, Tomiyasu probably, but I mean it could be too early for him. So I suppose we're gonna have to go with Chambers or Cedric.
No,
I want to see White. I want to see White and Gabriel. That's for sure. I want to see Tierney. I want to see Lokonga and Partey. I want to see probably Odegaard. And for me, I have a selection headed with Smith Rowe or Pepe because, I think you need another goal scorer in the team. And a lot of people fault me for this, but I'm going to say Saka left mid and Pepe right wing. And up top, you have to go with Aubameyang.
Okay.
That'll be my team. And my prediction would be 3-0. 3-0 Arsenal.
To us, yeah? Well, that's
yes.
Positive. That's positive. James, I'm going to come to you on this one. Who do you expect to see starting for us? It's interesting that Eduardo wants Ramsdale over Leno. So, who do you expect to see starting for us, and what do you think the result's going to be?
Well, I think fitness after an international break is key. I know, having watched Odegaard at home to the Netherlands, fitness after an international break, also not so much within Europe, but also players coming from different parts of the world and also from the distances. Fitness is key. He makes a great point about Tomiyasu. Is he fit? If he's fit, then of course you'd like to see him play. To make his debut at home would be good. Be interesting to see Ben White as well. I think Ben White and Gabriel will be very interesting going forward. We're at home and we've got to take the initiative. We really have, to not have scored a goal this season and to have conceded 9. We're playing at home in front of our crowd, so we've got to look to kind of flex our muscles a little bit. I think we'll win. I think it will be 3-1. And I'd like to think that, everyone will get behind the team, especially the people that are inside the stadium, because I would normally attend games from Amsterdam, but at the moment that's not possible. So I'm a little bit jealous of the fans inside the Emirates, being able to cheer their team on, but
not much to be jealous of, James.
At home and
it hasn't been much to be jealous of recently.
Really,
I know.
Well, the experience really, but of actually being there, being a Gooner based abroad, but also I think enjoy the game as well, and I think it'll be 3-1 to Arsenal.
Thank you. A quick super chat here from Shadman393. I think that's, I'm not sure what dollars that is, but thank you. Is it Canadian dollars maybe? Just saw confirmation that ESR is unwell for the England under-21 game today, so I would assume that ESR won't be available for the Norwich game. It's funny because the ESR is the one conundrum for me in that whole team because everything else kind of makes sense, but then you've got the number 10 issue, Odegaard or Smith Rowe, and then do you push Smith Rowe out wide? And I don't think... I hate there's number 10s playing out wide. We've done it for a number of years with the likes of Arshavin, Ramsey, Wilshere. How many more number 10s? Ozil. How many more number 10s are we going to play out wide? Play wingers in wingers positions is what I think. But I'm hoping we're going to see Tomiyasu. I agree with Eduardo. I like Ramsdale. But has Leno done anything wrong since he's come back? Not really. He actually played well in the last game, made some great saves. So goalkeeper's not too much of an issue. I like to see Gabriel and White in the middle. I want to see Tomiyasu. I want to see Tierney back. The question is, does he go with a 3 and 2 wing backs, or is he going to go with a flat back 4? There's a lot of sort of to and froing with that as well. So it's going to be interesting. I agree with you guys. I went for a 2-0 win. But let's hope that stays positive. This was a quick show today. We wanted to run through some of these players. Thank you so much for your support. If you haven't liked already, please hit your likes. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. You guys have said so many nice things. We've had some great shows. The one we did on Monday was immense. If you haven't seen the Monday show with me, Mo, Tom, Shaheen, and Lee Judges, watch it. It's a great show. We got one tomorrow, midweek peak, 7 or 8 o'clock. Keep an eye out for that as well. 8 o'clock, midweek peak. We'll be going through the highs and lows. James, I know you've got to shoot off, mate. It's been a pleasure having you, and hopefully we can have you more regularly throughout the season when you have got a bit more time on your hands.
Well, thank you very much. I really enjoyed it, and great points made by all, and I look forward to next time. For those hearing me for the first time tonight, feel free to follow James Rowanell, and also to keep up to date with my latest interviews for the Sickle Footballer website. Upcoming interviews include the likes of John Solarco, Mark Wolverton, who's currently manager of Queen's Park Rangers, and a few surprises from all levels of world football as well. So, and my recent interview with former Arsenal striker and Arsenal legend Alan Smith is being well received. So there really is something for everybody, and it's nice to educate fans and listen to the opinions of others and let them know that it really is a world game.
Yeah, what I like about the Secret Footballers, you cover not just English footballers all over the world and coaches as well. So if you haven't had taken the time to read Secret Footballer with by James Rowe, go and do it and subscribe, and also just follow him and you'll get updates. This man is extremely knowledgeable in many areas with regards to football. So James, we want to be able to pick your brains again at some point. So thank you for joining us. Edu, you regular lounger, you don't really need me to give you too much praise. You know you're one of ours, one of us, one of our own. Thank you for joining us. Is there anything you want to leave us with?
Well, I mean, it's going to be an interesting season ahead, man. I mean, transfers are over, and I mean, backing the team is now the priority. So I hope we go this Saturday and we smash Norwich and we can get our moods back up, because they've been in the floor lately. So best of luck to everybody. I hope this week is amazing for everybody that's been present here. So, and that's everything that I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Edu. Now, also, don't forget, midweek peak tomorrow. It's going to be me, Shaheen, the grumpy Richard rants. We've got him now as well. I know some of you enjoyed him ranting. He's from over and over and over again. And we've also got Albert JTV. Then we've got match reactions straight after the Norwich game, where you guys can come on. We drop a link and you guys can come and have a chat and tell us how you feel. Hopefully it'll be the first one we do that's positive. Marv Ellis, I've seen that. Sod off, mate. Right, this has been the Arsenal Lounge. I love you, loungers. This was a quick show. Thanks for joining us. Hit us up with the likes. Put comments in there. Let us know your thoughts for the game and who's going to be playing. And peace out.